Howdy doody. Good evening, Pat Turner.
Hey, what's up, Brendan? How you doing, man? Good to see you again.
I'm getting used to it now. It's like I used to click the go live thing and then you'd wait and then like you wouldn't know when you were actually live. And so I just figured I'd wait like 20 or 30 seconds and say, fuck it, let's go. So I called you last minute to come on for tonight's show. This is going to be one of the few. We only have about 3 or 4 shows left in the season, and I wanted to spend time with it with my co-host tonight, which is Pat. Pat, what's going on with you? How's things down in Georgia? And if you talk about the Braves, what's the score anyway?
Rain delay, and they were scheduled to start back up at 7:30, but maybe they might have started. They might be first pitching right now, man. But
I worked it out with the Yankees that they would have an off day today, so I could watch the game last night, do From Behind Tall Trees tonight, and then we pick up back tomorrow. But it's supposed to rain up here tomorrow, so who fucking knows, you know?
Yeah.
As long as we're not Dodgers fans. And speaking of Dodgers fans, tonight's guest comes to us from the West Coast, which is not always the best coast, especially when it comes to baseball. His Bigfoot resume includes, he's done a detailed investigations of if everybody knows, the 2012 Sierra thermal sighting, which was a big deal. And he's also captured some strange shit out in the woods. And of course, he's the 14-time winner of the Bigfooter of the Year. It's hard to believe. His name is KIPP MORRILL, and this is From Behind Tall Trees. Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering. With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer ignore.
Breaking news out of Texas, Bigfoot is real.
Could a breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? Or is there something more paranormal at work here, deep in the woods? If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl is real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees. There he is. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening from lovely, foggy Gold Beach, Oregon. That's where I'm at right now.
It's funny is when I did we were talking about the Bigfoot of the Year, and I had to throw the 14 times. I've heard 9, I've heard 10, I've heard 5, and I had friends call me today. Going, how do you get such a big guest on the show? He's won the thing like 14 times in a row. It's like, I guess they're not in the curve to the coalition, and Daniel Perez, and we give shouts out. I'm sure they're tuning in tonight. But KIPP MORRILL, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Sounds like it's going to be a fun evening.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and we were poking fun. You're a Dodger fan?
Well, I kind of inherited. My dad was, and God rest his soul. But yeah, I bleed Dodger blue.
Yeah, well, it's going to be tough because the Braves are going to have to go through the Dodger blue to get to the Yankees. I'm feeling
it. It's going to be it's going to be exciting playoffs time for sure.
Well, I know that most people hope that it gets out of the West Coast, right? Because you're playing San Diego, right, Pat?
Yeah, they're going to be tough.
No, we're playing the Phillies.
Oh, the Phillies. Oh,
yeah,
so
the Braves are playing the Phillies.
Yeah, so television, I think we're going to talk about baseball here for a second because I have to get this off my chest. As I'm a huge Yankee fan, and I was watching Bob the Handjob Costas and Ron Darling do the TBS broadcast of the New York Yankees, right? Both of them hate the Yankees. They talk nothing but shit about the Yankees. And then finally, when the Yankees went up 4-1, Ron Darling managed to shut the F up.
Yeah. That the national broadcasters, like, you could just hear the bias in their voice, dude, for whatever, that's why I hate national televised games. I like listening to the local commentators. The guys that call your team, right?
Right. Well, you're not going to get that, right, Kip?
I grew up listening to the Vin Scully. You know,
Yeah.
to me, that was, you know, at night listening to the Dodger games with my dad, listening to Vin Scully, you
Yeah,
know,
man.
listening to him call that, you know, just in any game. It's just, yeah, sad loss for sure. But yeah, I hear you. It's listening to like your local broadcasters, the people that have skin in the game when it comes to their team.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
and that's bias. I mean, I grew up listening on the radio with my grandfather, Phil Rizzuto from the Money Store. You know, it was like that nasally Phil Rizzuto on the radio. You lived for that, and so we're gonna see. Luckily, this we might have to have this show in like another 3 weeks and see who pans out. But you know, I know Kip's retirement time is valuable. 31 years, right?
Yeah, 31 years in the fire service. Wildland Fire, worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, but retired as the state aviation manager for the BLM in Oregon, Washington. So
now, what did that when you first got into that? How did you get into that? Now you're on a satellite phone, so if there's a little bit of delay, folks, you're gonna have to bear with us. But how did you first? There we go. Oh, Jesus.
Hey, I like the other one better.
yeah, I was like, wow.
What happened here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I don't know what's going on here.
You're live.
So
You're live.
I'm live. So anyway, how did you? Oh, that's why. Okay, there. I know she was much cuter to look at than me, but so I don't know where that button came from, but so how did you get into, I mean, you grew up in Northern California. So walk us through, for people that don't know the storied career of KIPP MORRILL, we're going to fill you in right now. Walk us through growing up in Northern California and then how you got involved with the fire service.
So I was 20 years old. I was living in Chico, California. Kind of always wanted to get into firefighting, but went to, you know, community college a little bit, worked at it. You're going to love this. I was a floor guard and a DJ at a skating rink. And
nice.
Finally got decided, you know what, I want to try this. And so ended up going through the training, ended up my first year in 1988 and freaking loved it. I said, this is what I want to do. And so from there, it's just been an amazing career of travel and experiences. You know, it's like anything, you know, the people that you meet, the people you work with, that really makes the job. And so, you know, I've made lifelong friends. I've worked on heli-tac crews. I've flown around in Black Hawk helicopters, fought fire in Australia, did an assignment in Hawaii, Alaska several times. I even did as a liaison on an incident management team, went to Saipan. So, you know, it's been amazing career opportunities just to do what I love to do. And I miss it. I miss the people. I don't miss
I bet
being on conference.
The camaraderie, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why, you know, we were talking earlier about, I went over and did an assignment this summer as a retiree, working at the Medford Tanker Base, which you'll love. See there.
There it is. You got to get it in closer. Get it a little closer.
Yeah, a little closer. Nice.
He's got a tanker dropping. It looks like he's draping napalm on Bigfoot.
So yeah, so that was, you know, the big thing for me was being able to just be a part of the team, you know, and it kind of, and if I could tie that into my Bigfooting experience, kind of the same thing, you know, when I go out in the woods with, you know, with BART and I know Todd Hale's out there. Todd,
they're all checking in. I think they're all checking in the chat right now, which is awesome.
So it's just, you know,
go ahead, Kip.
Just it's been a great opportunity to be a part of a team. You know, not everybody can be the quarterback, right? Not everybody can be the crew leader or whatever. It's just this collective effort, if you will. So,
so just to say to everybody watching, and I said this to Kip literally 5 seconds before we went live, I'm coming in cold here. So I'm learning Kip's story as it goes. And I just want to ask you a quick question, which I think is going to be relevant at some point in the discussion. What's your aviation experience? You've mentioned a few aviation things. What's your connection to aviation with your career path and your where was your place in all that? I'm very curious.
1991, I ended up getting on a helitack crew at Ramona Helitack, and from there I worked on helitack crews off and on, mostly engines, but that's kind of, I've always been an aviation enthusiast, if you will. And so I had an opportunity back in 2012, 2013. I put in for the state aviation manager position with the BLM California, and I got that position, and kind of the rest is history. People always ask, well, are you a pilot? No, I'm actually not a pilot, but I did manage, an aviation program, not just fire. I always tell people that fire was my biggest customer, but as a state aviation manager, you have law enforcement aviation, you have cadastral, you have resources, you have just the wide gamut of aviations that you are looking at for training, coordination. I've done several stints as the aviation coordinator at the Great Basin Coordination Center. I had 100 and something aircraft over 4 states, helping to coordinate where we send things, where we prioritize. So, and I've also worked with, the Cal Fire Military Helicopter Program, interagency program. So got to manage Black Hawk helicopters and CH-47s. And so I don't know if that answers your question. I guess.
Well, yeah, it does. I wanted to know exactly your aviation experience and connection. And again, I'm coming in here cold. I think that's cool as hell, man. I'm an aviation buff myself, so I know the vehicles you're talking about to the letter. So yeah.
Now were you under the BLM, Kip?
I was. When I ended my career, I was the state aviation manager for the BLM Oregon, Washington. So
the state BLM, basically.
Well, it's a federal position.
Right.
We're a federal agency, but each state has its own state aviation manager, BLM wise. And so, but Oregon, Washington happens to be one organization within the BLM. And so I had both those states.
Okay.
At one point, I was kind of covering the California and the Oregon, Washington, and my friends were calling me the West Coast Sam. So kind of funny.
Right. And that is, for those who don't know, BLM means Bureau of Land Management, which is under the Department of Interior of the federal government.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, Kip would be like, no, that's incorrect. So,
or like I called it the Bureau of Lots of Meetings. Sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
board meetings.
Lots of meetings.
Bigfooters have lots of meetings. Bigfooters of the year have lots of meetings, is what it really stands for.
Can be, yeah.
So, so you get into so you're born in Northern California, and so when does the Bigfoot, before you got into the BLM stuff, is when does the Bigfoot itch start to scratch? Right? When does the Bigfoot of the year start lining up his ducks in a row when he's young? Were you young? Were you a teen? What was going on?
Really young. Actually, growing up in Redding, California, one of the first things I remember is we had friends that owned a resort up in Trinity County, and growing up in Redding, Bigfoot is kind of a thing, and
big business.
So started hearing about it. One of my first things was my mom took me down to the Redding bookstore, and I bought John Green's books. The Year of the Sasquatch, On the Track of the Sasquatch, and I was hooked. And as with many things in life, you've got books, but we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all these amazing resources. And it really wasn't until Facebook that, that I started kind of looking at Bigfooting as something that maybe I could be involved with. And so one of the first things that I remembered was I became friends with Tom Yamarone, and he had just started the Bay Area Bigfoot group. And I would drive from Orland, California, down to the Bay Area, which is like a 3-hour drive, just to get with a group, just to be able to talk Bigfoot and kind of see what was going on. And so that was kind of like my first adult, I guess, toe dip into the Bigfooting world, and
that's pretty. I mean, you're busy at that time, so kind of taking the time out to go sniff that out in the Bay Area is not exactly normal things to do, right?
Yeah, 6-hour round trip, just to drive down and meet and come back. But I was willing to do it, and it really was. It was a great group. Joyce Kern Kearney was there. Trying to think who else was there at the time. Jerry Hine, Tom. You know, it's just a really interesting, eclectic group of people that had a common interest.
But also very skeptical, very critical, very analytical people too. You're not getting a bunch of bandwagon idiots like you have on a lot of Bigfoot pages now. And I'm going to call all those people bandwagon idiots because that's what they are. And they're not probably watching the show because I really don't give a shit. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a lot of more analytical about more people, more scientific, more critical.
Well, and it was because of that interaction that I ended up, meeting BART CUTINO for the first time. And that's when I connected with Bart. And of course, you know, my first big expedition was going up to the Sierra site and helping with the recreation. So, and kind of the background on that was I had planned to take.
Oh, wait a minute. You're going to miss my question. I was going to do the Wes from Sasquatch Chronicles and go, can you walk us through that? Just go ahead and set us up. So Kip, go ahead and set us up and walk us through what happened with that event.
Yeah, so that's what happened.
You missed my cue. I was going to be Wes.
Oh, well, so I was going to go to Bumping Lake, which was where Bart had his first thermal sighting. It's not recorded, but I was going to go up there, and I got a phone call one afternoon, and Bart said, "Hey, here's the deal. We're not going."
Oh, he does this all the time.
Up to the
wait, back up a second. You froze there for a second. So start with you're going up to the lake.
It's going to go to Bumping Lake, but Bart gave me a call and said, "We're not going to Bumping. We're going to go to the Sierras, and this is why." And he told me the story of his thermal sighting and kind of what happened, at that point. So it ended up that I got invited to go to this, basically an opportunity to meet all these people, interesting people that I'd only read about, and actually participate in this very well in-depth investigation of his thermal sighting. So, and it's kind of taken off from there. Just had the opportunity to meet some amazing people and spend a lot of time, and here we are.
Yeah, so we're talking about, for people that we have a lot of people that watch on the East Coast. For those of you who don't know, you should check out the I think it's the Sierra Evidence Initiative YouTube channel by BART CUTINO, which was part of this big thing. I think it was August 25th of 2012 was the original video sighting. I think the video, when you're going to see the footage here, the time and date stamp are wrong, just like everybody else's time and date stamp on every camera that's ever shot any footage. Pat, you've had a chance to look at some of it. I sent you earlier today.
Yeah.
First impression. We're going to just talk before we roll it.
Oh, wow.
First impression, just to get you on the mic. What do you think?
Oh boy, I didn't know you were going to put me the cart before the horse.
Well, we can because I would like to have Kip break it down afterwards, or do you want Kip to do it and then you talk about it afterwards?
It doesn't matter, man. You choose your own adventure.
How will we do this? How about Kip? Why don't you set us up for what was going on when this video, and we'll roll the video. I'm going to roll the whole video, so it might be a little bit long. So grab popcorn and drink. But why don't you set us up for it, and then we'll get Pat on the back end.
Okay, so I wasn't there for when it happened. I was there for the recreation. Right. But the way I understand it is that we had you had Bart CUTINO and Son Oriavong, Bigfoot Evidence. You had Todd Hale, Rosa Hebe, Justin Smea, and then I think it was Mike Lorenz. And so Todd and Ro had come all the way up from Southern California and had a long drive, and they were sitting up by the campfire. Justin was snoozing, on the cot by the fire, and then Mike Lorenz was sleeping in the back of his truck. And Bart, being Bart, is like you and I talked about earlier. He's hardcore. When he's out, and he's on it all night. So he grabs Son and says, "Hey, let's go you want to go for one more walk?" So he says, "Yeah, okay." So they go for a walk. They go kind of up the road, and it wraps around kind of back up above and behind the camp. So Bart's therming. Then all of a sudden he sees some heat signatures which if you've ever thermed anything that's hot out there in the woods, it pops, whether it's a deer, whether it's a mouse, whatever. And he just happened to look down and see these figures, but it took him a little bit, but I think he had to realize that the campfire was actually a ways away.
All right, so let's roll it up to that point. So I'm going to roll it up to that point because it's a bit long. So we're going to go up to right up to that point, and then we'll pause it and then go back to you, Kip. Right? Fair enough.
Get some down there. Oh shit. Oh shit, Sean. Just stay absolutely silent. I think I got some on here. In between the trees. Holy shit, I'm not shooting you.
Okay. Go.
Well, that represented it perfect. I mean, Bart just happens to see something that popped that was hot, and it wasn't the people by the campfire. And so he starts filming. He actually at some point, at that point he was using AA batteries, and they started to go out, so he had to walk all the way back. And as soon as he got down to the campfire with Ro and Todd, he said, don't look around, don't act natural, but I think I'm filming some. And I think you can hear it actually on the film. Both Todd and Ro kind of said, we thought we were seeing something. So they thought they were tired and started seeing these shadows moving back and forth in the trees up by the campfire.
There were two, though. I saw one. There was another one outside, right? There was a V. If we look at this real quick, let's back it up just a hair. Right there, you see another one to the left, correct?
Yeah, after the recreation, we kind of determined that there was at least 2 to 3 maybe in there. And of course, what we call the money shot was when you actually see a leg go stip through one of those gaps.
Well, that's coming up, right? That's still coming up.
Yeah, that hasn't occurred. I think at that point they were focused in and knew that hey, there's something there.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the videotape.
Down there. Oh shit. Oh shit, Sean. Just stay absolutely silent.
I'd be shitting my pants right now.
On here. In between the trees. Holy shit, I'm not shooting you. What the fuck? Yeah, I'm recording. Sean, I think we're looking at 2 of them. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. Holy shit.
Really, out of all the people, I got here with you one time, and you happened to catch one on thermal.
What I'm looking at? It's looking up at us, and it's behind the tree, and it keeps poking its head out. We're just going to stay absolutely still and be patient. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. It's not too close to us, so.
And I'm not sure at what point that the actual, we call the money shot, happened. If it's later on, you know, because there's some time that he was shooting this footage. He actually went back down and came back up, and was able to film some more. But yeah, from what I understand, Son was definitely good.
Now, it was Bart was filming. Who was with him? Who was the one going, "Are you serious?"
Son Oriavong.
Yeah. Because he can't see it because he's not seeing it because he doesn't have a thermal.
Yeah. So he's going by what Bart's telling him, and so if you could imagine, he's in pitch black.
Yeah.
And Bart's therming, and he's standing next to Bart, going, "Holy shit!"
Bart, over there. What are you talking about? You see him?
Yeah.
Pat Turner, what do you think?
Okay. Wow. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So I've never seen this footage before. What's funny is I have connections to people who were there on the ground and still never even heard about or saw this footage, which is kind of funny to me, but whatever. Dude, it is so incredibly inconclusive. There's a lot of things that come to mind. Number one, I know, they were pointed in the general vicinity of camp, which immediately is like, oh, what's that all about?
So the thing that puts it in perspective is when we did the recreation and actually see the map of like where the campfire was located and where the subjects were being filmed. I get what you're saying, Pat, because I think that's the overall first impression is that, oh my gosh, I can't see anything.
It's an absolute factor. And there's two important points to that factor. Number one, it could be somebody taking a piss in the woods, because I did see that map and it was clearly easily a place, to wander off to. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that potential is in play. Number two, it's, I mean, if you're gonna go the Sasquatch narrative or at all, it's kind of weird a Sasquatch would find itself pinched so close to a camp,
Kip,
like
here's a picture.
so close to a camp, and somebody observing it so close by. That's miracle stuff right there. So I mean, those are some of the first stuff that jumped out at me. But I say it's likely wildlife. It's probably not a Bigfoot at all.
If you get the opportunity to see the actual recreation, and there's a lot of first impressions that people have with that. But if you walk the dirt and been there, and actually with the recreation, you'll see that. And with there's a lot more to just that. I mean, we're looking at it looks like a blurry.
This happened 10 years ago. I mean, I'm certainly not going to go. I live in Georgia, by the way, so I'm certainly not going to fly out there and walk the dirt, as you say.
Right, but here it is. Here's Bart walking the dirt and pointing things out right here.
Like it's a lot further down. Very close to me. Okay, about 20 yards or so. Looking down, and we have two trees that form almost a perfect V. We have a gap in between. There's two trees that line up. We were able to, in a lot of work, probably about 20, 25 hours, we were able to figure this out. In the footage, you will see a stationary subject. It's just going to look like a glowing heat signature white, kind of roundish. It variable moves a little bit in the footage, but mainly stands still. It doesn't really change shape too much. We already checked. There should be absolutely no heat signature coming from behind us. The campfire is in back of me to my right. There was only two persons there looking uphill. They are not viewable from my line of sight standing on. They're not visible at all. Matter of fact, my partners have been looking up, and what they had been seeing was actually dark silhouettes fill the tree gaps, because you had ambient light looking uphill off that incline.
On the backside.
On the backside, ambient light behind those trees, and they were seeing black silhouettes back and forth, kind of filling those gaps. Ro had made a comment that he felt like he was extremely tired and rubbing his eyes and not really believing what he was seeing, where Todd was very adamant.
So that gives you a perception of what they were looking at. It wasn't thick forest at all. It was very clear, but also the campsite. And again, we're going off Bart's statements and the other guy's statements that this is what happened and people weren't there. And I tend to believe that you're not going to launch a level of investigation that they did and spend the money that they did to investigate something that they. I mean, just don't because Justin Smaya was there. Don't put that all into, because that's exactly what
that has nothing to do with it. Dude, number one, just for full transparency, number one, I mean, I'll leave Justin's name out of the whole thing. Number two, I'm friends with Justin, so I have no beef with Justin. So I'm not here to. This isn't about let's go down the Justin road. Hell no,
we're not. No, but I know he was there, and I know maybe that's what you were thinking about.
No, that's not my angle at all. My angle is literal. It is simply this. It is what I will call a crappy thermal monocular camera. That okay, yeah, sure, it might cost $1,500, but that's really bad thermal. It's white hot. It's old, ancient thermal technology, and there's really no. You could be off by 40 feet where you think what you're looking at is and how big it is. I'll say this. Let's just take the whole camp, like they were pointed in the general direction of camp. Let's just take that off the plate. Let's say it wasn't those two guys, taking a piss in the woods. That's not what happened. It's still inconclusive. It is absolutely 100% inconclusive. And any kind of recreation or depth perception of trying to understand what you were looking at and where it was, also, like, there's no good way to do that. And I assure you, it was not done accurately.
I'm going to completely disagree with you because
there you go,
again,
Kip. Go ahead.
I was there with the recreation. We did that methodically for the better part of a week. Just seeing that piece, I get exactly where you're coming from, and I would totally get what you're saying. But having done the recreation and with the people that we did it with,
okay,
there's a lot more to the story. Let's just put it that way. And there's a lot more to it from just seeing what you just saw. If you're going to base all your opinions based on that, you're totally justified. But
what I'm basing my opinions on, I mean, you tell me. Do you know what you're looking at in that film? Did he know what he was looking at in that film?
That would be the first person to say that that is not damning, but it's compelling evidence. And he won't, if you talk to Bart, he won't say that they were Bigfoot, but he will say, and what we did find in the recreation is that there were 2 to 3 bipedal subjects in the camp that night, not wearing clothes, and they were anywhere from 6.5 to 7 feet. Or
I don't.
Have you seen
the recreation? That at all? In the
while you guys are talking up, I'm pulling it up right now. So keep. I'm trying to find it right now.
If you've not seen the.
There's zero visual evidence that is a fact. You have to admit that. There's no visual evidence that what you just said is a fact. It's nothing.
But we just looked at, yes. If you look at the rest of the evidence that we gathered, okay, well then.
Show
let's
me
move
where.
on to something else, because we're wasting our time here if we're going to sit here and argue about this.
No,
there's a lot of other
arguing.
evidence.
I'm asking questions, and I'm giving you an.
Okay, here we go. I got the recreation right here. I'm going to start this right now, and let's see if this helps Kip, because I'm on your side on this one. So let's just pull this up, Pat. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's listen to the because they didn't. Okay,
with optics,
where Bart and Son are filming. After about 30 minutes of filming, a subject is clearly seen moving back and forth in a gap between trees. The most interesting view is when the subject steps from right.
Hang on, I gotta scrub through to where it was.
Of course,
this is the part where
I'm trying to find
the leg. Yeah, this is you're in the right
gap
part.
between.
I'm trying to find the
8% wax.
You were in the right part, dude. Yeah.
No, they did it. They did a recreation, dude, which is
how the video.
I'm trying to find it.
assault.
I scrubbed it here.
A fellow field.
Okay, here we go.
The height of the subject. A recreation of the scene was conducted.
Now, Kip, is this the part that you were talking about?
A part of the part. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot. Again, you know, it's like, I don't know, if you had like a car accident, you had one angle and one person saw, well, clearly, or you know, like playing football or something, watching one of the, you know, somebody that was their foot out of bounds. Well, from this angle, yeah, definitely. From this angle, no, he's clearly inbounds. It's kind of that thing. I mean, we could sit here and fight about this all night. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot more to it. What you just saw, Pat, is just probably a tenth of the rest of the story. But you're basing it, everything that you believe, on that, and I understand. But what I'm trying to say is that when we did the recreation and we did all the measurements, we spent a week at night with. So, anyways, that's
yeah. So why don't you? So Kip, why don't you tell us, because I have what I have here is, unfortunately, I have the para breakdown video of it, and that doesn't really do. So why don't you tell us about the experiment you guys did? What did you do? Because I can see here is that you in the red right there?
I think that's Robert.
Okay,
that might be me at 6'3", back behind.
Okay, so why don't you tell us about the experiments that you did, and Pat, let him go in all the way through and just finish this theory, because I want to hear about how they tried to bust this. And they so go ahead, Pat. Kip, I'm sorry.
So anyway, so when I first got there, when we met at Bassett's at the parking lot, I'd never met Bart in person. I'd never met Robert in person. Robert, of course, at the time was the state parks ranger. Bart walked straight up to Robert and said, "Robert, I want you to destroy my evidence." This is exactly what he said. He said, "This is the deal. I want you to basically take everything that I have, that we've had, and show me that it's wrong. Show me that this is not what we are actually seeing." That's what he asked him to do.
Mm-hmm. Poke holes in it, right?
We spent the next week during the daytime. We did measurements, and we have all of this is documented, and it's out there. It's all free and open. But we went out and we measured from where Bart took the thermal down to where, you know, where he thought what he saw, the thermal image, the white hot subjects.
I did see 2 survey flags there. It seemed like that's where he thought the subject was originally.
Like, because we did recreations at night using the same thermal under the same circumstances. You know, people with clothing on, heights, and so yes, it's blurry. That wasn't necessarily completely a technological issue. There was a software issue with that particular camera,
which was a funny story.
Hey, sorry about that, Cammy. No,
it's okay. Dogs are always welcome on From Behind Tall Trees.
Okay,
always.
She's a little bit of a talker sometimes.
That's
so, anyways,
okay.
So like I said, we spent a week at night trying to do these different recreations. There's at one point there's like something that's hot, that something drops, and we tried to figure out, was that a rock? Was that, you know, what was that? Something gets thrown. I mean, like I said, there's a whole lot more to this, and we could sit here and debate that. But I think until Pat had an opportunity to look at the rest of that,
and it's not fair.
I mean, we can sit here and just go back and forth. But we're not going to.
That's not what the show's about, honestly.
I'm not. I'm not trying. I'm not trying to have a endless back and forth, man. I'm trying to have a good discussion based on things that I know and
you've had the rest of, if you've digested the rest of it, until you've done that, we really can't have a conversation. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
Sure,
really
we
possible.
can. But see. So you're the one shutting down the conversation. You're the one defining.
Hey, like, Pat.
Yeah, what?
You don't believe it, and I'm telling you that I believe it.
I don't believe in anything. It's not a matter of faith.
He's like a nihilist now. Okay, so Pat, Kip is our guest, my guest on the show, and I want his story to be told, and we can interject some conjecture, but we don't need to go back and forth because we don't have 4 hours to do this. So that being said, I would like to.
So my opinion is not welcome here. I mean, is that what you're saying, Brendan?
No, of course not.
I mean,
of course it is.
Okay, well then my opinion is just simply this. It is inconclusive based on my what professional skill sets I do have with thermal imaging and what I understand about FLIR monoculars and how especially 2012 and whatever model that was pre-2012, white hot, there's no way to judge distance. You don't know what you're looking at. At one point, and I did look at the video, and at one point what I saw was either a raccoon or a bear cub circling a dead tree. Now, see,
Okay.
I saw that objectively, Kip. I saw that objectively as an objective observer. Oh, what was that? What does that look like? Well, what that looks like to me is either a raccoon or a bear cub circling a dead tree. I could point out the dead tree. Can you show me, like, in your recreations where
Wasn't a
that
bear
dead
cub.
tree is?
Because I'll just based on animal behavior, it wouldn't stay there for the better part of an hour hanging out in camp. The bear cub would probably need its mother, and it probably wouldn't stay around. It would probably come in.
Wasn't there 2 subjects in the film?
2 to 3, and we
Right.
2 to 3. I noticed 2 to 3 moving in between the trees.
Again, I also say possibly raccoon. The type of animal that would do that is a bigger.
There's nothing spinning around the tree.
3 foot, 2.5 foot animal circling a tree.
Okay, so let's we're gonna go with Pat here right now, and we're gonna challenge Pat to tell us what he sees here, because I see 2 trees, I see 2 large trees, and you see a bear cub right there going around a tree. Pat?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if I had to guess, that's what it looked like.
You can talk over this, Pat. I just want to see what you see, because I don't see
right there. That black tree, like, looks like a dead tree to me, partial dead tree. And I see
weeks
clear
later
movement around it.
That's what you're looking at right there, right? Kip, am I correct?
No, that's not. I mean, not at all.
That's the black part. Let Kip talk.
I believe that's me at 6'3", because I was the only.
No, but I'm talking about the black, the stump here, and this little stump in the foreground, this deadfall.
Well, I'm looking at Robert in the red, and then I'm looking at the 6'3" marker.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're over where you are 6'3" is where the creature was.
Yeah.
See, actually, Robert in the red jacket is deceiving, because that makes you look at that's where you thought it was. But I see you.
If the recreation, Robert is way smaller than what we had. So again, the whole recreation and putting it, and putting apples to apples, that would probably answer a lot of your questions, Pat. And I'm not trying to shut you down, but
I doubt. I mean, I'll look at it. I'll look at every piece of evidence you guys have presented. I'm not saying I won't. I will. Okay. I will. I promise.
And I probably should have done
do that fairly. I will always do that fairly and objectively. That's who I am. That's what I do.
Probably it's my fault, because I probably should have given that to you before, because I got this stuff from Kip a couple days ago, and I went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I listened to.
I call balls and strikes like I see them, man.
Okay.
You're calling them on about that much of the evidence that we had. So
yeah, but the big evidence is the footage, and I know what I'm looking at in that footage is extremely inconclusive.
Footage is really, until you put it in perspective,
right?
The footage is difficult. Absolutely,
and I think we all agree on that. Even the dogs agree. Even the dogs agree that the footage is inconclusive.
There's nothing there that says Bigfoot. Nothing at all. I mean, do you agree or disagree?
And I would agree that nothing says Bigfoot, and nobody that has done, even when we've done the recreation, you won't hear people say we refer to them as subjects. We refer to them as such. People, again, Bart will be the first person to say it's compelling evidence. It's not damning evidence. There were 2 to 3 bipedal subjects in camp that night, and a lot of the other footage.
That's a conclusion.
Okay.
So you're saying there were either people there or Bigfoot there. Yeah. That's the conclusion.
Absolutely.
And I don't see that I'm sorry, I don't see that in the video.
I agree to disagree. And you're basing everything on that one. You just saw this little. Is that? Let me get this straight.
Which is the catalyst for the discussion.
Yeah. Well, let me go, Pat. Give me a second.
Sure.
What we just looked at, is that the only piece that you've seen?
Yes.
No. Yes. No. I mean, I saw most of the video.
Well, I said, just to clarify real quick,
all of it, some of it, just that audio. Little piece. What have you? Are you basing it on what we just watched?
Obviously, it's the best of. Well, I mean, it's why Brendan's playing those parts. It's the best of the video that is being shown. So I think it's fair to judge the best of. Is it not?
I don't know if I would call it the best of, but if that's what you want to call it, you have.
Well, show me the best of the video then. If that's not it, show it to me.
Okay, Pat. I can only the section. I have the full footage, right? And we agreed that the section is 20 minutes long. We spoke. I said, listen, I can only play a certain section, and I'm going to have to trust the people that you're talking to have a conversation. If you have two people, and I'm just paraphrasing here, both of you, so I apologize. I'm trying to clarify on both ends here and play middle of the fence. Is if you have certain people at the campsite that are accounted for, you have two people at the campsite that are accounted for, and you have two people on thermal that are accounted for, right? There's 4 people there. Whether there's 4 or 5, they're all accounted for.
Again, I'll concede. I will just say, okay, screw the whole, like, there were people at camp nearby. Forget that. I'm just going to go straight off what I see in a really bad thermal camera that's white hot, over pixelated, and you don't know, like, there's nothing that jumps out as anything. I know the whole bipedal step. I'm not just going to buy that because there's a narrative attached to it.
Well, that's why I have the show, is I invite guests on to tell their stories, right? I wasn't there. You weren't there. KIPP investigated it.
Except for
I wasn't there either. I was part of the...
But KIPP investigated it. So the interview right now is about KIPP's investigation of said footage. That's what we're talking about.
That's fine, but it did get brought up my opinion on it, and I gave it, and here we are.
I didn't think you were going to filibuster for 45 minutes about it, so I love you, buddy.
I'm having a discussion.
All right,
Come on, Brendan.
I know this is KIPP, man. KIPP, this isn't the first time that KIPP, that Pat and I have gone toe to toe with this over a guest. So I appreciate you having the conjecture and putting your dogs in the corner, and this is why we're here. We're all just friends having a conversation. So you guys were up there for a week. We're going to jump back to we're going to talk about the investigation.
I'm here to get to the bottom of the truth, buddy. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to know the truth.
Okay. Well, I'm here to know about KIPP's investigation.
I get you. If you want to talk to me, if you guys want to have an interview and you want to talk about it, I'm not here to debate whether or not Pat believes or doesn't believe. You know, quite frankly, I don't care whether you do or don't.
Right.
But having a conversation is great.
In that word believe, I am just asking questions and giving my opinion, and your answers are unsatisfactory to me.
Well, then
just believe.
Okay, so KIPP,
watch the whole recreation piece. Watch the whole investigation. Watch the whole video, and then we can have a really in-depth conversation, and we can agree and disagree all we want. But we're arguing over this one small snippet.
So that's why it's just me and you right now. Me and you right now. We're going to talk about this. So I would like to talk about the investigation. Pat's still backstage. I'm going to let Pat fucking have a cigarette, relax. I want to hear about the investigation. What you guys found out in the investigation. I would love to hear that. I know our guests would love to hear that. And uninterrupted. So talk about the investigation and what your conclusive, what you guys found out. I want to know.
Well, so again, I mean, this is over the better part of a week. And this isn't just, hey, let's go mess around and let's just walk over here and take a look at this. I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours and hours of measurements, of waiting till nightfall to be able to try and recreate with the thermal camera, trying to figure out, and again, Bart asked Robert to head up this investigation, which he did. And again, I was just a part of the investigation. I was there to try and add perspective.
Because you were 6'3", right?
Very much an outsider. Yeah, very much an outsider. And so definitely just trying to figure out whether or not, you know, is this bullshit? Is this something that is not real? You know, is this something that is just, again, we were going into it with our eyes wide open and Occam's razor, looking at the most obvious something that could be something that, you know, if it were people, or if it could have been people, or as Pat alluded to, you know, was it a giant chipmunk? I don't know. We don't know. So
or
that's
baby
why we did the
cubs
investigation.
Yeah.
And so that's why. And so, so through the investigation, if you look at the investigation as it was done and all the pieces and all the other perspectives of that, what we determined was there were 2 to 3 bipedal subjects in camp, about over 6.5 to 7.5 feet tall, not wearing clothing. And that's what we found. And nobody said they're Bigfoot. Nobody said they're, you know.
I did notice. I don't mean to cut you off because you've been cut off all freaking night, and I apologize for that. It's but I did notice, and I apologize that I didn't bring this up because I didn't have the full stream. Is I noticed during the thermal investigation with you, you could definitely notice the head, the jacket, and the pants were separate tones of color. They weren't one blob of color, correct?
That's correct.
And so even in 2012, even with the technology back in 2012, you could tell when somebody was wearing a jacket or somebody was wearing pants or somebody had long hair or something like that. That's easily distinguishable to anybody that actually watches the whole footage and all the investigation. And I think that was left out, and that's my fault as a host. I should have prepped, blah, blah, blah.
It was. And yeah, it was, there was an issue with the software. That there, and as we talked about, BART had contacted the FLIR company, and so so that was obviously an issue. So it wasn't necessarily just poor technology at the time, although that's probably a factor, but that was an issue. But again, based on how we did the recreation, how we did the investigation, we were able to determine that whoever, whatever, the bear cub, whatever, wasn't wearing any clothes. And if it was a bear cub, then it was a 6.5 foot bear cub, you know, and not wearing any clothing. And we were able to be able to determine that based on, again, the recreation. You know, that's why we went back up there. And Bart didn't just take this footage and throw it out on the internet and say, hey, look what I got. Look what I got. Take these Bigfoots. You know, and he was extremely methodical and asking to have this huge group of people go up and basically let's prove it wrong. And we were all on board to try and do that. We weren't showing up there to prove that there were Bigfoots or anything there. We specifically went to destroy his evidence, like he asked Robert to do. And so, and I think you guys done the due diligence. And yes, it's for people that weren't there. It's very easily to cast a shadow and go, you know what, fuck it, it's somebody else pissing in the woods. And I get that. I understand Pat. I understand Pat's position because he's very critical of evidence, and I understand that. But the story here tonight, and the reason that I have you on the show, is to tell your story about the investigation. And the video is not the story. The investigation to me is the story. So that being said, we're going to move on. We're going to shift gears, and we're going to talk audio evidence now. And with that, we're going to bring Pat Turner back in. Pat, we're going to audio evidence now.
Well, I don't know what I have to say about it.
Well, here we go.
Can I be honest about it, or am I in timeout?
No, you were in timeout because you wanted to have a cigarette. So here's the thing, and I don't lie, you smoke it. No, I'm just kidding. So just to fill you in real quick, Kip, we had Julie Wrench had a bunch of David Ellis and Julie Wrench were on the show, and David Ellis is a very good friend of ours, and I know you're familiar with David from the Olympic Project. Pat was in on that as a kind of go-to guy for what does that sound like. And so now let's set up the audio evidence. Let's shift gears because we're almost an hour into the show and we're running out of time.
I can't do it, dude. I'm sorry. I can't in good conscience participate in the show anymore. I'm not being treated fairly. And I understand if you don't want to make your show about a disagreement about this video, which to me is extremely inconclusive, right? That's subjective, but that's my opinion. And I'm going to say my opinion. You allow people to say, shut the fuck up, Pat, in chat. And you don't time them out, but you time me out for giving my opinion.
I actually don't monitor the chat.
I'm sorry. I cannot participate in the show. I will not go to the next segment. I don't want to hear the audio. Kip, I like you. Dude, listen. No. We started out this conversation with me. You know, my eyeballs are getting big going, oh, you're into aviation? You and I could have a beer at a pub anytime and talk about planes and even Bigfoot. And I just want you to understand, man, that I'm trying to be fair. I don't go for narratives and I don't go for bad evidence. And that visual evidence is totally inconclusive. And there's nothing that anybody ever did to back up the catalyst, which was the video. So I just want to get that off my chest. And it's not personal, Kip. I have these discussions with anybody, anytime, anywhere. And I'm fair about it. So no more shut the fuck up in chat. I'm just trying to have a honest discussion and get to the truth.
Oh, here it is, right here. I didn't see it. I didn't see SoCal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I don't monitor the
I
chat.
get put in timeout, but they don't. So, dude, I can have an honest discussion with you. It's not a debate. It's not about belief. I don't believe in Bigfoot. And I don't believe your footage is wrong or believe your footage is real. I have no faith in any of that. I'm objective, critical thinking observer. And I know my freaking thermal, man. So that's a discussion for another time. If you want to come on my show, we can have that discussion honestly and openly. No rudeness, no problems. But I cannot go forward in good conscience.
Okay, so if you
the only thing I would ask, can I talk to Pat real quick?
Of course.
Sure.
So the only thing that I would ask Pat is this: when you give the opportunity, you have the opportunity to look at all the other recreation evidence and look at this whole thing as a package deal, not just that piece. I mean, watch the footage, watch the recreation, and if we can get you the documents. You could look at everything that we did. It's all documented. And once you've done that, I think that we could have probably a better conversation. And I'm not asking you to believe one way or the other. I'm just saying that our conversation would be a lot better if you had all that other, and you could still not believe or not let me rephrase that. You could still be objective and skeptical about what it is that you see and how you see it. But I think that until you actually have the opportunity to look at the whole package, it's difficult for you and I to have this back and forth.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take your sentiment on that, and I will promise you I will look at your totality of package and evidence, and we can have this conversation again.
And try and have it as open a mind as you can on it.
I'm open-minded.
Okay, then that's all I would ask, and we can have another conversation.
I'm an open-minded individual. So
okay.
I promise you this, I will take a look at the totality of what the evidence is revolving around this, and I will I'll have that discussion with you again under those conditions. You think are more fair conditions. Like, I understand that. So
I would also say that I'm just a small player in this whole in the whole thing. And I actually went there and helped with the investigation. But, Bart, who was actually there and who took the video, excuse me, he's probably better qualified to speak to it than I am.
I'll talk to him too.
So, okay.
Let's bring some more people in.
Okay, so Pat, are you going to stay for the audio? Can you just hang out?
I'm going to bow out because I think it's appropriate.
Okay, I'll see you later. All right. Pat's a good friend. Pat's a little wound up. I understand it's Pat condition, but again, this is not.
I totally appreciate his skepticism. I do. Right. It's just it's hard to have a conversation, and then again, it's he hasn't seen everything, and so I think once he gives out an opportunity, we could have a better discussion.
Right, and it was my fault. I invited him on, and I thought he'd be more. Just let you tell a story, and Pat is very passionate about things. So we're not going to talk. Oh shit, my fucking. Hang on a second. I'm still here.
Let me give you a quick background on the audio that we're talking about too.
Yeah. So let's do that. Let's do that while I'm setting it up and losing my camera here. So go ahead.
I was with Kirk Brandenburg, and this is Kirk's audio. I just happened to be happened to be there, and so we were in an area of Washington, and there were 3 different camps that evening. There was a main camp, and then there were 2 smaller satellite camps. And it was about 1 a.m. and we were getting ready to walk into one of the other camps. And so before we got on the trail, got on the radio and said to the camp, "Hey, this is Kip and Kirk. We're getting ready to walk into such and such camp." The reply was, "Negative, stay. Don't come back here right now. We're getting some things are happening.
Some stuff.
And so don't come in here." Oh, wow. Okay, copy that. So Kirk and I decided, well, let's just walk up the road. So we decided we're going to walk up the road from the trail that would go into one of the satellite camps to an area where the other camp was set up. And I don't think anybody was there at that time. So we were walking away on a logging road, and you could hear he and I talking. Kirk has his recorder going, and I'm therming. And so you'll hear me say, "Oh, I think I've got something." "Oh, no, it's just a mouse."
Right.
And it was right after that this audio occurred.
Let's go to it.
It's a mouse. Oh, okay. Or a rat or something getting ready to drag across the road. That's cool.
That was not an owl.
Now, it's what's amazing is I had there was a quote on the somebody asked said sounds canine to me, and I'm sure that you guys have run this through the gamut of tests with different sound signatures, correct?
So that's to my knowledge, that once Kirk had gotten that recording, Kirk actually sent it to David Ellis, and I believe that's where that looping of the 3 loop cleaned up, and that's kind of where that came from. So what I can tell you is that my first thought was, my little pea brain, my first thought when I heard that was, why are those guys yelling when we ended up, they just told us not to come in there, something's going on, why are they yelling? So my first instinct was human or something. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, coyotes are going off or this or that. And so that was the first thing that snapped into my mind. So to me, that was telling, just from my perspective. I also understand that there's also, talking to Chris Spencer and Shane Corson and some others, there's something very similar that has been heard over in the Olympics, which would have been on the west side of Washington. So again, was it a Bigfoot? We don't know, but we can compare those sounds against something that known animal noises and those types of things, and so definitely determined that it's not a coyote, but it's, again, we didn't see what made the noise. All I can tell you is that we were in a very remote area. There weren't, we knew of anybody that was out in the middle of nowhere in a roadless, trailless area. It's very overgrown. It's crazy. So compelling, but not damning, right?
Well, you know, it's funny is as I'm battling with co-hosts and I'm battling with my camera. It's a
But you're not
fist fight
battling with
tonight,
me.
Kip. I know, I love you, Kip. But check this out. So when you play this audio, and I got the audio yesterday from you, and I loaded up. So here is I'm going to play you what we captured in the Allegheny National Forest, October 2nd, 2020. And again, I sent this to David Ellis, so it is looped. But I want you to listen to the similarities with this one. So you can see it's looped 3 times, but if you notice the signatures where you look at the time, the signature, I'm going to pause this right here and look at the signatures, how you have one note around 1K and then you have some semitones. You don't have full octaves or full harmonics that dogs and coyotes have. So it's very
sing song as well. Your recording, and then also the one that Kirk recorded, it has that sing song characteristic, I guess is what you could call it. So yeah, that's really interesting.
And that's exactly what David Ellis called it. He says it's kind of a sing-song thing that he's captured down in North Carolina. We were lucky enough to get this a couple of years ago up in the Allegheny National Forest, and then you have that out there. And I'm telling you, I was there and I recorded that. And I tell you what, it wasn't a wolf. We had coyotes come in later that night. I know what a coyote sounds like. I live in New York. We don't have wolves. And to me, it was about 75 or 80 yards off to behind me. And I tell you what, if you listen close to the thing, you hear me go, what the fuck was that? You know, it's like, it was one of those things, was like, it shifted the paradigm a little bit. Now, is it conclusive? No. Is it interesting and worth examining? Yes.
Agreed. And that's kind of where we're at, right? In Bigfoot research in general, you know, we go by things like tree knocks. Well, we know that there are characteristics of ape behavior. So that's rather interesting. Until somebody sees one actually knock on a tree, do we know? No. You know, the other characteristics when, you know, a gorilla or an ape is agitated and they do the swaying piece, and you hear a lot of that reported. So that's, again, compelling, not damning. But here we are. And the same thing with thermal footage. I think when thermals first came out, people thought, oh, it's just a matter of time before we got them dead to rights. We can show that, yeah, this is a Bigfoot. Look at how tall it is. Look at how big it is.
Tonight is a perfect example. Tonight is a perfect example.
Right? Exactly. In 2022, here we are, right? Which, you know, goes back to, you know, the idea that until we have an actual physical specimen, and I'm not advocating one way or the other for killing or not killing. Personally, if I had a rifle and I had something stand up in front of me in the forest, would I shoot it? No.
No, you had me. I thought you were going to say yes, because I would.
No,
I would.
Well, you know, to me, it's not. Finding proof is selfish for me. And if I had a sighting and I saw something, to me, that's good enough for me. I don't need to prove it to anybody else. And that's kind of where I come from. I don't talk down or look down on people who would, right. But for me, it's the mystery and selfishness for me. The reason that I go out, aside from the fact that I enjoy being out in the woods and I love hanging out with the people and camping and hiking and all of those things. Selfishly, I'm in it for me. I want to have my own experience, and I want to be able to see for me that these things really do exist. And I believe they do. And I have good friends, people that I respect in the Bigfooting community who have said that they have seen. And they, as we talked about, you know, they're knowers and I'm a believer. And so that's, I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at. Maybe I just sidetracked a little bit, but
no, but that's fine, because that's actually, because we're winding down now, and it's, I want to thank for everybody that's been sat through this great show. It's been up and down, but we're all, it's about conversations, and sometimes conversations are productive, and sometimes conversation is a little bit confrontational. But I think we all want the same thing. We all want to try to figure out what the hell's going on. But that being said, I wanted to ask you, is a lot of people get a little emotionally attracted, a lot, especially with social media. A lot of people are very emotionally attached to Bigfoot. It's like, well, it's like, I talked to a buddy of mine. He's like, well, I guess if it like had to die of old age and we found it hit by a truck or didn't get hurt and stuff like that, this guy's got it like it's his uncle. It's like, it's like people have a very emotionally, like almost like a spiritual attachment to this creature. Why do you think that? I mean, I'm asking you to theorize here, but why do you think that is so?
Social media, it's a strange thing. When people have anonymity and they can be behind a different name, or, not actually having to, interact in person with people, I think they act differently. I've kind of used this, it's kind of a lame, maybe example, but how people are in their cars, aggressive, angry, people cut you off, this and that, and this person's too slow and they're going to make me lose this light. But if you're all in your cars and all of a sudden you snap your fingers and the cars go away and everybody's standing there and they have to interact with one another, suddenly they're not so mean. They're not so ready to be angry. And I think Bigfooting is kind of that way too. You get around a campfire with people, you get out in the woods with people, and I've seen it happen time and time again. People that are extremely emotional and charged, crying right now.
This guy's been on point all day, Mr. Kelsey, whoever he is, dude.
It is the truth, though. When you get around people and you're actually, Beachfoot is a great example. You've got people that are. We'll
back up for a second. For people that don't know about Beachfoot, because a lot of people on the East Coast aren't familiar with that. We did have Shane Corson on a couple months ago, but just real quick, broad strokes about Beachfoot.
It started out, I think, about 12 years ago. It was supposed to be, an invite only. It was really exclusive, just, hardcore researchers. It's kind of evolved more into a bit more open and social. And so, but it's a yearly event that takes place currently near Alsea, Oregon, on the Oregon coast. And it's just a really good opportunity for people to kind of get together and share ideas and talk about Bigfoot. One of the really cool things about Beachfoot is there's no cell service where you're at. So you don't see a lot of people hanging around just looking at their phones. People are, getting into small groups and listening to people's presentations, or hanging out around the campfire, having debates, having discussions, and people are still, extremely passionate about what they believe or how they believe, but it's still kind of a really neat environment where people can just kind of hang out and feel safe. I guess you're not just going to get beaten up online. We've all been on the coalition, and
yeah, I love Stroyford is one of my buddies, dude, and I love
Steven. Yes. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing like sitting around a campfire at 1 o'clock in the morning, Steven sitting there drinking his coffee, rolling his cigarettes. The guy has so much incredible knowledge about Bigfooting history. He's a huge skeptic, but you can have these incredible conversations with him. And again, he's one person when he's online, and there's no in between with Steven, right? People either they love him or they hate him, but you get with him around a campfire, it's a whole different experience. And so, but that's the amazing, beautiful thing about social media, is it opens up the world to many more people and many more ideas and opportunities. But it also invites this, I've got, I'm behind a screen and I don't have to, I can be as mean as I want,
I can be who I want to be, and nobody's going to know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And there's good and bad with that. I often told people that if I had any kind of solid Bigfooting evidence, I can probably count on my two hands how many people I would share that information with. and I sure as hell wouldn't be on Facebook with it.
Well, I'll tell you the truth though, is to be honest, because we're new, the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective is a relatively new group, 3 or 4 years old. And but I tell you what, I bring my evidence, I send it to Stroyford first. I said, listen, I'm going to be posting this on YouTube or on Facebook. I want your opinion. And and because I trust him enough to be, he knows that I'm 6'4", I'm 300 pounds. I'm a big guy. I don't have thin skin, right? I'm from New York. I can take whatever. Just tell me what the fuck you think it is. And if he says, it's pretty cool, okay, go put it on there. And because if you post things on the coalition, you better be ready to come with your A game to back it up, right? And I love that about it.
And the tendency, I think, is because I think people have been, there's been so much bullshit online. It just happens to be people are just automatically skeptical and throw rocks at whatever it is that people post. And it's just the unfortunate way of the world that we live in, right? Mm-hmm. So and you got to have thick skin. If you go into the coalition, especially, and you put something in there, it's a great example. I mean, with Pat and I talking about the Sierra footage, there's a lot of passion, and a lot of times you're just not going to get anywhere.
Well, and I mean, we all had fun at Pat's expense. And to say, Pat, I love you, buddy, and I invite you on the shows just for such an occasion. It's just sometimes we just have to take a step back and let the show run its course. And you know what?
I have no doubt that Pat and I, if we were sitting around a camp, and it would be, and I'd welcome having a beer with Pat anytime.
And it is. I mean, it is. It's a tough one. But I want to, honestly, we're an hour and 20 minutes in. I want to let you know. What do you got going on now? Now you're retired. You're traveling the Pacific Northwest or the West Coast. What's going on with you? Obviously, you have your dogs there.
Well, my wife and my dogs. We live in our fifth wheel full time. In fact, October the 9th was the 1-year anniversary of my retirement, and so I like to tell people that we're chasing 70 degrees. So if it's too hot there, then we're going to go there. And if it's too cold there, we're going to go there. And so it's given us a lot of flexibility to go out and see a lot of different places, spend a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Gotten to do, I did a group thing with the Bluff Creek Project, in July. Went to Beachfoot, spent some time up in Washington with some folks at BART CUTINO. And so, it's given me a lot of opportunity and a lot of flexibility to spend a lot of time in different places. And so that's what I love.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay school tax, right? You don't have to pay property tax. You don't have to pay you got to pay for gas. That's about it though, right?
I don't have a pool to clean. I don't have a lawn to mow. Life is good. So I'm just really enjoying myself, and I hope to do more Bigfooting related things, as time goes by. It gives me a lot of opportunity.
Well, I tell you what, Kip, it's for people that don't know how we met is I'm part of the coalition. I'm part of the secret coalition, whatever. And I just always enjoyed Kip's posts. Right. And I was the one that put together the Harry and the Hendersons with Kip in the van and Bigfoot behind him that I used for the thumbnail for the show. Cause Kip's one of those guys. It's like, he doesn't take it too seriously, and he always has fun with it. And that's why he has 14-time award winner, the legendary Bigfoot researcher. And I felt like we were old souls, friends from old years, right? Before we even met today on the show.
Ooh, yeah. And there's a lot of those folks that, it's like, probably never, Bruce Kelly is a great example. I've never met Bruce Kelly in person. We've never spoken on the phone. In fact, my sister, she sees a lot of the fun stuff that Bruce posts.
Bruce is awesome. Yeah.
She says, I can't believe you've never met him? No. I don't know what I could walk by him in the grocery store. I wouldn't know who he was. Yeah. So, and yeah, I think, I don't count myself as a Bigfoot researcher. I'm a Bigfoot enthusiast.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, as we spoke about earlier, like my career, other things, I take those things very serious. I just don't take myself too serious. And so
And that's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. And I appreciate that. We're winding down our second season of the Bigfoot thing, and I'm gonna kind of hang up my hat doing the Bigfoot thing for a little while, doing the talk show stuff, because I need to get out and do more stuff and do more documentaries and do, because it's the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. We always started it as a think tank for things, right? Not only just Bigfoot, but paranormal, anything people want to talk about. Once you let the 800-pound gorilla, which is Bigfoot, in the door, it's hard to keep it at bay. So that's why I was choosing my exit interviews very carefully to have a good time with people like you. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope that you're going to come back maybe next year when we have a show. You're going to come back and talk shit. And me and you will talk shit. We'll get Pat on. We'll start it all over again.
I loved it. It was great. Like I tell people like to say that Bigfoot people are crazy. Bigfoot people aren't crazy. You know who's crazy? Leprechaun people.
On that note, folks, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. For Pat Turner, who checked out early, I am Brendan Brown, and that is the 15-time award-winning Bigfoot of the Year. Grammy, what's it? What's the award when they have the Grammy, the Tony, the Emmy, and the Oscar? It's like some sort of
the quadfecta.
Yeah, the quadfecta. That's our buddy KIPP MORRILL, and this has so Kip, don't go anywhere. I'm going to play the outro, and we're going to talk backstage. So thanks for tuning in, and this has been From Behind Tall Trees.
Hey, this is Chuck Larson. You're watching the CARC channel on YouTube.
You've been watching From Behind Tall Trees, a Catskill Appalachian Research Collective production. For more information on this program and others like it, remember to like, share, and subscribe to CARC Universal today. To join the conversation on our Facebook group, become a member of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective Facebook group. CARC. Relentless.